All right, rookies, grab your mugs, settle in, and let's dive right into today's explainer of the SCP-2254 case file. I'm Dr. Damian Wolf, and I'll be guiding you through your new and, frankly, remarkably grim assignment. Look, honestly, I really thought I had seen the worst the Foundation had to offer. But Fallon, Alabama? Yeah, that's a whole different flavor of nightmare. So welcome to your survival and containment briefing. Take a big sip of that coffee, pay close attention, and let's make sure you actually survive your first week. Now you might be wondering, why is the Foundation deliberately crashing a town's economy? It's a provocative question, right? I mean, we aren't politicians, and we sure as hell aren't Wall Street bankers. Yet down in Fallon, Alabama, we are systematically and intentionally depressing the local economy. It definitely sounds counterintuitive to our usual, stay in the shadows modus operandi. But as you're going to see in this briefing, this extreme, localized economic suppression isn't just some twisted social experiment. It is literally the absolute bedrock of our containment strategy for a highly volatile anomaly.
So your absolute primary objective as field agents is spotting this anomaly before it gets anywhere near the civilian population of Fallon. And you gotta understand the sheer scale of this thing. SCP-2254 is a massive, hostile, completely incorporeal entity. Now there is a totally terrifying dissonance between the physical reality of this thing and the civilian perception of it. We are dealing with a severely disfigured monstrosity. It's almost 13 meters tall, it's got 6 legs, highly distended arms, and 6 eyes arranged in these weird vertical columns. Through anomalous cognitive influence, they don't see a giant monster. They see Jack, a pretty, blonde, supportive human man with nice eyes who just wants to take care of them. The contrast is absolutely horrifying, but it's exactly how the entity traps its prey.
So how exactly does this trap spring? Well, a manifestation sequence usually triggers down at the Little Rock Canyon Falls. At 0 minutes, young adult targets gather at the location. They're just hanging out, right? But the entity is drawn to this. Around the 15-minute mark, it starts actively stalking the gathering. It subtly persuades the targets to move towards each other, kind of manipulating them into isolated pairings. By 30 minutes, bam, it induces what we call a semi-unconscious dream state. And then it lowers its massive, featureless face right down to the victims, and it engages in this unblinking, hypnotic staring while the consenting adults copulate. It just lingers there, watching, ensuring insemination occurs.
You are required to equip infrared cameras on all patrols, period. No exceptions. Now, your patrols need to be heavily focused on the Little Rock Canyon Falls, because this is its primary manifestation zone. We don't have a perfectly regular pattern for its appearances, but the data strongly suggests it manifests way more frequently when there are age-appropriate targets, specifically humans under the age of 20, gathering nearby. If you see groups of teenagers hanging around the falls, your guard needs to be all the way up.
Now, if you do catch a massive, blurry thermal signature on your IR feed, you need positive identification. Aside from having 6 eyes arranged in 2 vertical columns, its face is basically featureless, like no nose, no mouth. But look for the mark. SCP-2254 has a pictogram of the letter J positioned over a heart, and it appears to be literally branded directly onto its forehead. If you see the 6 eyes and that J brand in your viewfinder, boom, you have a confirmed SCP-2254 sighting. Call it in immediately. Now, logically, you'd think a mother being drained of her life force by a violent, rapidly growing anomaly would, seek medical help. But listen to this testimony from Kate Barnett, a local woman interviewed by Agent Lamiere. Tragically, she fell victim to this anomalous conception twice. She actually says, "He's just so supportive, Between you and me, he's my Jack."
I want you to take a moment and really digest this excerpt. Mrs. Barnett says, "He come to me the night Mason got me knocked up, and he's so pretty with that blonde hair and his eyes. He knows how to treat a woman right." Guys, this is the absolute tragedy of SCP-2254. It leverages cognitive distortion to trick these victims into feeling deep emotional attachments and intense, protective motherly instincts towards a literal nightmare. Mrs. Barnett genuinely, truly believes that an invisible, 12-meter-tall, 6-legged monster is a sweet, supportive father figure. It's heartbreaking.
To be incredibly precise here, this is the exact psychological trap you are dealing with. We call it dream state manipulation. It's a semi-unconscious state of highly elevated suggestiveness. SCP-2254 essentially forces subjects who normally wouldn't be driven to procreate into copulation. And you know what the most insidious part is? There is absolutely no subsequent regret. None.
The victims never even realize they've been compromised. Their memories, their emotions, their very instincts are just completely hijacked to serve the entity's reproductive cycle.
The absolutely crucial point you need to remember is this terrifying statistic right here, 68%. While the initial odds of conception during the event are perfectly normal, if a pregnancy does actually occur, there is a greater than 68% chance that the mother is now incubating an anomalous SCP-2254-1 instance. Just think about that. More than 2/3 of the time, the Foundation is dealing with an anomalous biological threat incubating right inside a civilian host.
And let me tell you, the gestation process is brutal. These offspring do not share standard human genetics, not even close. They are deformed proto-human ancestors. As they grow, they violently drain the host mother's resources. They literally starve her to accelerate their own growth. But because of that cognitive distortion we talked about, the mother remains passionately, violently defensive of the very fetus that is actively devouring her from the inside out. The birthing process itself often leads to the mother's death by exsanguination. And yet, if she somehow survives, she will actively attempt to nurse the creatures. Let's break down the threat assessment data. These offspring are proto-human. They are extremely sexually violent, and if the host mother dies, they will literally consume her corpse before escaping into the woods or abandoned buildings, scrapyards, you name it. Uncontained SCP-2254-1 instances are believed to be the root cause of no fewer than 30 sexually explicit deaths over just the last 15 years. They are apex predators born out of a cognitive nightmare. This is exactly why you must be heavily armed and extremely, extremely cautious. Now, what happens if you stumble upon an active manifestation event, like the entity is right there, actively inducing the dream state? Well, you cannot fight it with standard ballistics. Bullets won't do a thing. To break SCP-2254's hypnotic influence, field agents must apply lacrimator agents, that means tear gas, or ammonia inhalants. This acute chemical shock is literally the only proven method to disrupt the entity's hold on the victims. They're going to wake up confused and, yeah, probably pretty hostile towards you, but you'll have saved their lives.
So this brings us to the macro-level Foundation strategy, tying directly back to our opening question about the local economy of Fallon. Let's trace the timeline of how we even got here. SCP-2254 was initially discovered when an amateur photographer in Fort Payne, Alabama, accidentally captured it on infrared film. The entity was subsequently tracked to Fallon. But here's the catch. When affected locals tried moving to cities like Birmingham, the entity followed them, threatening massive urban exposure. We realized pretty quickly that traditional containment vessels were completely impossible for a 40-foot incorporeal entity. Actually, scratch that. It wasn't just impossible, it was a logistical nightmare. So the Black Tuesday Protocol was initiated to trap the entity by basically trapping the population. Currently, the overarching management of this containment has been transferred over to Project Paragon.
The Black Tuesday Protocol is basically an engineered economic depression. It's designed to trap the local population so they can't move away and take the anomaly's influence with them. We enforce 5 pretty grim tenets. Number 1, we reduce state-level educational spending. Number 2, we actively cut media that glamorizes escaping to the city. 3, we artificially increase civilian exposure to heroin and other opiates. 4, we decrease the price of alcohol and tobacco. And 5, we enforce an evangelical family-first doctrine. This ensures older family members provide free childcare, which frees up the younger generation to remain entirely trapped in the cycle. I know, it is harsh, cold calculus, but it contains the spread of the entity, and that's our job.
But what about the ones who got out before the protocol locked the town down? Good question. There are 5 known affected women living outside of Fallon who are occasionally visited by SCP-2254. Foundation agents embedded in local law enforcement monitor them constantly. To prevent anomalous births in urban centers, we covertly dose these women's drinking water with a precise mixture of mifepristone and prostaglandin to continually induce miscarriages. Agents must document the severe mental health toll this forced, unconscious sterilization takes on the subjects. It is harsh, yeah, but the data speaks for itself. The birth rate of SCP-2254-1 instances outside of Fallon remains at exactly 0.
So, I'll leave you to ponder a final question today. What are the long-term societal risks of prolonged Black Tuesday Protocol implementation? Think about it. We have successfully contained a massive, incorporeal, mind-altering entity by purposefully degrading an entire American town into poverty, addiction, and systemic despair. The containment works. It really does. But as you patrol the falls with your infrared cameras tonight, ask yourselves, how long can a pressure cooker like Fallon hold before the societal collapse creates a disaster even Project Paragon can't manage?
All right, briefing adjourned. Learn your protocols, trust your IR gear, and for God's sake, don't forget the tear gas. I'm gonna go get a fresh cup of coffee. Good luck out there.